Spring, 1944. Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia. The creamy brown liquid swirling in the glass captivated the German woman who had never seen anything like it. After 18 months serving as a Nachrichtenhelferin, a female signal auxiliary for the Wehrmacht in occupied France, subsisting on turnip bread and ersatz coffee, this sweet chocolatey drink called chocolate milk represented impossibility made real. It cost nothing to her, served freely in the camp cafeteria alongside meals that exceeded what most German civilians received for a week's rations. Across American women's prison facilities that spring, approximately 500 female German military auxiliaries confronted a reality that contradicted everything Nazi propaganda had taught them about American deprivation and cruelty. They discovered a nation where chocolate milk flowed daily, where homemade cookies appeared at every meal, where feminine hygiene products were distributed without question or limit. These simple comfort foods, treats that most German women hadn't tasted since before the war, systematically dismantled Nazi gender ideology more effectively than any re-education program. The mathematics of American abundance were being written in cocoa and milk, in butter and sugar, revealing an industrial capacity that rendered German female sacrifice not noble service to the fatherland, but unnecessary suffering. What began as amazement at American comfort foods would evolve into complete psychological transformation. These Helferinnen, female auxiliaries, who had served as communication specialists, cryptographers, telephone operators, and administrative staff, had been captured during the Allied advance through France in early 1944. Nazi leadership had assured them that as women in uniform, they would face particular brutality if captured. Goebbels' propaganda specifically warned female personnel that American soldiers would abuse them, then starve them in prison camps that barely maintained human dignity. Instead, within hours of processing at Ellis Island, they encountered American military cuisine. These standard meals, which American WACs routinely considered ordinary, contained treasures: fresh bread with real butter, eggs, bacon, coffee with actual sugar and cream and milk, both plain and chocolate varieties. German women who had survived on minimal rations for months treated these standard meals as feasts. According to military records, at Fort Oglethorpe, the primary women's POW facility, the U.S. Army served 3 full meals daily. Breakfast included pancakes with maple syrup, lunch featured sandwiches with sliced meat and cheese, dinner provided meat with 2 vegetables and dessert. These meals would have fed a German family for days. The systematic nourishment of female prisoners began immediately, though its psychological impact would only be understood later. A German signal specialist later testified to the International Red Cross, "We expected harsh conditions. Instead, the Americans gave us chocolate milk and cookies like we were honored guests rather than enemies." This disconnect between what we were taught and what we experienced began our re-education. The chocolate milk itself became symbolic, rich with whole milk and real cocoa powder, sweetened generously with sugar. Women who hadn't tasted chocolate since 1941 received it daily. Military records document that Fort Oglethorpe alone requisitioned 40 gallons of chocolate milk daily for its prisoner population, serving it alongside meals and as an afternoon refreshment. The casual abundance of this simple comfort beverage, considered appropriate even for enemies, represented an American prosperity that Nazi Germany had claimed was propaganda fiction. Life at Fort Oglethorpe and Fort Devens restructured the German women's understanding of everyday abundance. The prison camps, operated primarily by Women's Army Corps personnel, established routines centered around mealtimes that revealed fundamental American assumptions about nourishment and comfort. Unlike German military facilities where meals were fuel for duty, American camps treated food as both sustenance and morale. The cafeteria-style service, allowing prisoners to select from multiple options, contradicted everything they knew about wartime rationing and control. Quartermaster records from June 1944 document daily menus featuring choices unimaginable in wartime Germany. Breakfast options included eggs prepared 3 ways, breakfast meats, toast with butter and jam, hot and cold cereals. Lunch provided soup, sandwiches with sliced meats, fresh fruit, and at least 1 sweet option. Dinner featured a protein, 2 vegetables, potatoes or rice, bread with butter, and dessert. Most shocking to the German auxiliaries, WOC guards ate identical meals alongside them, demonstrating equality rather than hierarchy. Cookies emerged as the most powerful symbols of American abundance. The prison kitchens produced them daily in varieties that pre-war German bakeries couldn't match: chocolate chip, oatmeal raisin, peanut butter, sugar, molasses, and ginger cookies appeared in rotation. Each standard batch required ingredients German civilians hadn't seen in years: 2 cups of white flour, 1 cup of sugar, real butter, eggs, and vanilla extract. Most remarkable were chocolate chip cookies, a purely American invention from the Toll House Inn in Massachusetts, containing semi-sweet chocolate morsels that required extensive cocoa imports despite submarine warfare threatening shipping lanes. Statistical comparisons compiled by prison nutritionists revealed the gulf between societies. The average American woman in 1944 consumed approximately 12 pounds of sugar monthly through direct and processed sources. Her German counterpart received 8 ounces when available. American milk consumption averaged 834 pounds per person annually, while German civilian rations allocated milk primarily to children and pregnant women, with adults receiving powdered substitutes. Army records confirm that Fort Oglethorpe alone used 120 gallons of fresh milk daily for its 300 female prisoners and staff. Beyond food, the women encountered abundance in personal care. Monthly hygiene packages contained items vanished from German stores since 1941: scented soap, shampoo, sanitary napkins, skin cream, and even limited cosmetics. The contrast between American women's wartime experience and the German steel maiden ideal proved shocking. Waist guards maintained feminine appearances despite military service, wearing makeup during off-duty hours and setting hair weekly. German prisoners observed American women's service without sacrifice of femininity, a direct contradiction of Nazi gender ideology. "We were told American women were either decadent or desperately poor," recalled a former Signals auxiliary in a 1975 interview. "Instead, we found them strong, well-fed, and remarkably unconcerned with appearances, despite having beauty products we hadn't seen in years. They worked alongside men yet remained distinctly feminine. This confused us entirely." The female prisoners gradually realized American women lived fundamentally different lives from their German counterparts. American women chose careers, earned independent wages, drove vehicles, and made purchasing decisions without male oversight. These freedoms, visible even within military structure, appeared alongside material abundance rather than competing with it. The prisoners' letters home, heavily censored but preserved in military archives, show evolving awareness that American women's liberation and American prosperity advanced together rather than at each other's expense. Work assignments revealed American abundance beyond prison fences. By summer 1944, female POWs received permission to work in camp kitchens, laundries, and hospitals. Unlike their male counterparts in heavy labor, women performed duties resembling civilian employment, inadvertently gaining deeper exposure to American domestic practices. Kitchen work proved especially educational, as prisoners learned American recipes firsthand while helping prepare meals for fellow inmates and staff. The camp kitchen at Fort Oglethorpe resembled a modern restaurant rather than military facility. German women, who had managed field kitchens with minimal equipment, now used electric mixers, industrial refrigerators, and automated dishwashers. They watched as American cooks used butter, sugar, and eggs without measuring, ingredients so precious in Germany that recipes listed them by the gram. Most remarkable were the cookie preparation stations, where dough was mixed in 20-quart bowls, rolled out on marble counters, and baked in electric ovens that maintained perfect temperature. "The kitchens had machines for everything," noted a former Signals auxiliary in her memoirs. "Americans used electricity for tasks we would assign 3 people to accomplish. Their waste horrified us initially, throwing away food that wasn't perfect, using entire eggs when Germans would use just yolks or whites separately. Then we realized they had so much they didn't need to conserve." Working in post exchanges, female prisoners witnessed American consumption habits directly. The PX stores stocked products unavailable in wartime Germany: multiple brands of chocolate bars, packaged cookies, bottled soft drinks, and personal care items. Most revealing was observing American women's casual purchasing decisions, buying items without reference to ration books or availability concerns. German auxiliaries who had managed wartime shortages through careful planning couldn't comprehend the absence of scarcity thinking. Statistical contrasts emerged through observation. In 1944, American women constituted 36.1% of the civilian workforce, compared to German women's 51% despite Nazi propaganda advocating female domesticity. American women averaged 2,300 calories daily through personal choice rather than rationing. German civilians received 1,100 calories through strict controls. The revelation that American women chose careers yet maintained better household provisioning contradicted fundamental Nazi gender teachings. Work assignments at schools provided glimpses of American childhood. Prisoners witnessed school lunch programs where every child received milk, both regular and chocolate, alongside hot meals. Cookie distribution in American classrooms seemed especially wasteful to German women familiar with severe civilian rationing. One school in Georgia near Fort Oglethorpe served chocolate chip cookies weekly to all students, requiring 50 pounds of flour, 30 pounds of sugar, and 25 pounds of chocolate chips monthly, resources that would supply a German neighborhood for weeks. The prisoners occasionally visited food manufacturing facilities. A cookie factory near Fort Devens produced 10,000 packages daily using automated equipment. German women trained in careful hand production watched machines deposit precise dough amounts, bake at controlled temperatures, and package without human intervention. The factory employed primarily women earning wages comparable to male factory workers, another contradiction of Nazi gender economics. By witnessing American food systems, female POWs recognized that American abundance represented female liberation rather than exploitation. While Nazi ideology positioned women as domestic conservers managing scarcity, American women enjoyed both career opportunities and material comfort. This revelation began dismantling beliefs about necessary female sacrifice for national strength. American holiday celebrations in female POW camps delivered profound ideological challenges. Thanksgiving 1944 introduced German women to a purely American tradition, demonstrating national abundance even during global conflict. Fort Oglethorpe's mess hall, transformed with decorations as prisoners and guards, prepared a feast unimaginable in blockaded Germany. Roast turkey with stuffing, cranberry sauce, sweet potatoes, green beans, rolls with butter, and pumpkin pie with whipped cream. Each woman received a portion exceeding 2,000 calories in a single meal, more than German civilians received in 2 days. Christmas 1944 brought unexpected connections between captives and captors. Local women's church groups organized cookie exchanges with the prison camp, bringing homemade treats to women they considered enemies. The Fort Devens visitor log recorded 37 civilian women arriving on December 18, 1944, bearing 112 dozen cookies of various types. German prisoners, many having received letters describing holiday deprivation at home, encountered American generosity that contradicted fundamental Nazi teachings about American heartlessness. The ritual of Christmas cookie preparation became particularly meaningful. American tradition called for elaborately decorated sugar cookies, rich chocolate varieties, and special family recipes. WAC guards shared personal cookbooks with prisoners, revealing handwritten notes and multi-generational recipes. German women, trained in precision and discipline, excelled at detailed cookie decoration. One guard's journal noted, "The German women created more beautiful cookies than ours, turning simple ingredients into artistic expressions. Yet they marveled that we had ingredients for unnecessary food when their families wrote of boiling leather to make soup." The YWCA contributed significantly to female prisoner welfare during holidays, providing materials for craft projects, organizing musical performances, and supplying women's magazines featuring elaborate holiday entertaining ideas. The December 1944 issue of Ladies' Home Journal, distributed in camps, showcased cookie recipes requiring 32 separate ingredients, more baking components than had been available in German homes since 1941. German women studying these magazines discovered American domestic ideology, celebrating abundance rather than sacrifice, pleasure rather than deprivation. Religious services during Christmas incorporated traditions from both cultures, creating unexpected harmony. Fort Oglethorpe records document a Christmas Eve service where German prisoners sang Stille Nacht while American guards joined with Silent Night, the same melody carrying different words but identical sentiment. This moment of connection through shared cultural heritage revealed humanity beyond national divisions, further undermining Nazi racial ideology. Correspondence with families in Germany intensified holiday contradictions. Censored letters preserved in military archives reveal prisoners' growing awareness of the disparity between their conditions and civilian life in Germany. One woman wrote, "We had cookies and chocolate milk for Christmas. Please don't worry about me." The military censor noted her deliberate omission of details that would distress her family: the 12 varieties of cookies, the festive meal with meat and fruit, the small gifts from American personnel. By December 1944, as Allied forces advanced through Europe, female prisoners received increasingly desperate letters from home describing food shortages, bombing, and displacement. Military records confirm that prisoners began sending care packages to their families rather than receiving them, a complete reversal of the expected relationship between prisoners and civilians. American Red Cross parcels containing chocolate, coffee, sugar, and canned goods were repackaged with personal letters and forwarded to Germany through Switzerland. The Christmas season's stark contrast, enjoying decorated cookies and chocolate treats while knowing German children received nothing, created profound cognitive dissonance. This juxtaposition of abundance in captivity versus deprivation in freedom delivered the most powerful challenge yet to Nazi worldviews. The women who had once believed in German superiority faced irrefutable evidence in simple sugar cookies that American democracy had succeeded where Nazi Germany had failed, providing comfort and plenty, even during global war. Evolution of prisoner attitudes unfolded visibly through the winter of 1945. Military intelligence officers monitoring censored mail tracked transformations in ideology and outlook. Initial correspondence from August 1944 revealed 68% of female prisoners expressing continued faith in German victory. By February 1945, that figure had dropped to 17%, with most women instead writing about American recipes, post-war plans, and hopes for families to experience similar comfort. Camp commanders compiled weekly reports documenting this ideological dissolution, noting shifts in prisoner social structures as Nazi loyalists lost influence while those embracing American values gained status. Female officers among the prisoners initially maintained strict adherence to military hierarchy and Nazi principles. Nachrichtenhelferin Gerda Müller, senior auxiliary at Fort Oglethorpe, enforced ideological compliance during the early months, organizing secret commemoration of Hitler's birthday in April 1944. By January 1945, camp records show her requesting American cooking lessons, specifically for chocolate chip cookies. This transformation among leadership accelerated the broader dissolution of Nazi belief systems. Conflicts between ideological factions emerged as reality contradicted propaganda. Fort Devens reported 3 separate incidents where hardline Nazi supporters confronted women who openly praised American conditions. These confrontations decreased as evidence of German military collapse mounted and as the material benefits of American attitudes became undeniable. Statistical tracking revealed that women who embraced American practices received more privileges, better work assignments, and improved social connections with guards, creating practical incentives for ideological shift. American re-education avoided direct propaganda, instead relying on environmental exposure. The curriculum for optional classes focused on practical skills, English language, American cooking techniques, typing, and basic business methods. Records indicate participation rose from 37% of eligible prisoners in September 1944 to 83% by March 1945. Women who initially attended to relieve boredom gradually internalized American approaches to female education and employment. Documented evidence of changing perceptions about American women's roles appeared in creative projects. German prisoners produced a camp newsletter at Fort Oglethorpe, where early editions featured traditional recipes and homemaking tips. By spring 1945, the same publication discussed female college education, career opportunities, and financial independence, alongside cookie recipes and fashion advice. This integration of domestic skills with professional ambition reflected growing appreciation for American women's broader opportunities. The contrast between Nazi feminine ideal, the self-sacrificing mother dedicated solely to home and children, and American women's varied roles became central to ideological transformation. Prisoners observed WEC officers making command decisions while discussing recipes, female physicians treating patients while wearing lipstick, and civilian women visiting camp who owned businesses or held professional positions. These demonstrations of femininity, without limitation, contradicted fundamental Nazi gender theories. Cooking became the primary vector for cultural exchange. German women increasingly requested American recipes, particularly for cookies and desserts. Camp records document 240 recipe cards distributed at Fort Oglethorpe alone during March 1945. The prison kitchens became cultural laboratories where German precision merged with American abundance, creating hybrid techniques. Wex noted with surprise how German women improved standard American recipes through careful measurement and technique refinements, particularly with chocolate chip cookies, where they achieved more consistent results through disciplined methodology. Physical changes among prisoners provided visible evidence of American conditions. Medical records documented average weight gain of 12 pounds per prisoner during 6 months of captivity, while photographs revealed softer faces, healthier complexions, and increasingly American-influenced hairstyles and posture. West Guards reported that by spring 1945, female German prisoners had become nearly indistinguishable from American women in appearance and mannerisms, adopting casual speech patterns, more relaxed bearing, and American-style makeup application when personal products were available. The pivotal moment came in May 1945, when news of Germany's unconditional surrender reached the camps. Military records note that Fort Oglethorpe marked the occasion by serving chocolate chip cookies and chocolate milk, symbolic American comforts, alongside the announcement. Women who had arrived as committed Nazi auxiliaries received confirmation of their nation's defeat while holding physical evidence of the competing system's success in their hands. The juxtaposition completed their transformation from ideological enemies to witnesses of democratic abundance. Repatriation began in November 1945, continuing through early 1946 as female prisoners returned to a homeland transformed by defeat. The women who had arrived in America as uniformed auxiliaries of the Wehrmacht returned to Germany as unofficial ambassadors of American domestic culture. They carried unusual treasures, not jewelry or currency, but handwritten recipe cards for chocolate chip cookies, instructions for homemade chocolate milk, and techniques for foods they had experienced in captivity. Military processing records document that departing prisoners from Fort Oglethorpe requested and received 437 recipe cards, more treasured than any other possession they could bring to devastated Germany. These women encountered a shattered nation where basic infrastructure had collapsed. Former signals specialists with technical training found their skills needed for reconstruction, but they brought additional knowledge that proved equally valuable. In Berlin, Bremen, and Hamburg, returned female POWs established cooking classes, teaching American recipes adapted for scarce German ingredients. A military government report from October 1946 identified 24 separate community education programs led by former prisoners, teaching not just recipes but American approaches to kitchen efficiency, nutrition, and food preservation. Health examinations upon repatriation revealed statistical evidence of American abundance. Female POWs returning from U.S. camps averaged 18 pounds heavier than when captured, with improved dental health, better skin condition, and fewer vitamin deficiencies. They returned to families who had lost similar amounts of weight to deprivation. This physical contrast, the prisoner healthier than the free civilian, provided irrefutable evidence against Nazi claims of American scarcity. One returning woman described her mother's reaction. "She touched my face and said, 'They fed you well.' When I described chocolate milk served daily, she wept." American influence on post-war German domestic science emerged quickly through these returned prisoners. Traditional German baking emphasized precision, technique, and complex pastries. American-style cookies, simpler, more casual, and ingredient-intensive, represented a different philosophy: abundance over skill, accessibility over tradition. As former POWs shared American recipes with neighbors and family, these treats became symbols of aspirational plenty. A 1948 survey of Berlin bakeries identified Amerikanische Kekse, American cookies, as their fastest-growing product category, with chocolate chip cookies particularly sought after, despite chocolate scarcity. Publication of cookbooks featuring American recipes began as early as 1949. Documented records show at least 7 German cookbooks published between 1949 to 1952, authored by former female prisoners. American Kitchen Secrets by Elizabeth Schmidt, a former Nachrichtenhelferin held at Fort Devens, sold 45,000 copies in its first printing. These books introduced American measurements, cups and tablespoons rather than grams, ingredient combinations unfamiliar to German cooks, and casual serving styles that departed from formal European traditions. Long-term impacts on German food culture emerged gradually. Chocolate milk, previously uncommon in Germany, appeared in school programs by the mid-1950s. The Marshall Plan specifically funded milk distribution in schools, with chocolate flavoring added to encourage consumption among children recovering from malnutrition. Former prisoners who had experienced American school lunch observations often administered these programs, deliberately modeling practices they had witnessed during captivity. Oral histories collected in the 1980s captured testimonials about transformation through food experiences. Gertrude Weber, held at Fort Oglethorpe from 1944 to 46, reflected, "I arrived believing Germany represented the highest civilization. Then I saw American abundance shared so casually, even with enemies. The chocolate chip cookie, so simple yet impossible in Germany, taught me more about economic systems than any lecture could. They had created a society with enough butter and sugar to make unnecessary sweet things during global war. This required rethinking everything I believed." The multi-generational impact continued through recipes passed to children and grandchildren. Interviews with families of former prisoners reveal many still using handwritten American recipes brought from captivity. Helga Müller, daughter of a signals auxiliary, explained mother's American cookie recipes weren't just about food, they represented her transformation. She arrived in America a Nazi soldier and returned a different woman. She measured her life as before and after America, before and after chocolate chip cookies. Contemporary German holiday traditions now incorporate distinctly American elements introduced by these women. Christmas cookie assortments, Plätzchen in modern Germany, typically include American-style chocolate chip cookies alongside traditional German varieties. This cultural fusion, beginning with prison camp exchanges in 1944 to 45, represents the enduring legacy of ideological transformation through everyday comfort foods. The female German prisoners who couldn't believe chocolate milk and cookies in American prison camps became unexpected bridges between former enemies. Their experience demonstrates that ideological transformation occurs not through force or deprivation, but through the simple power of chocolate, butter and sugar combined into expressions of democratic abundance that even the most committed ideologue cannot deny.